Season 2 Plus is on the verge of ending, and we've had quite a lot of new artifacts come in just at the start of Season T1. So in this video, we're going to be updating our tier list for what's changed in the artifacts, what's the best open field artifacts, and what's not usable. What's up guys, MEOWER here back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. So it's finally time for us to update our tier list for the best open field artifacts. But before we get started, be sure to drop a like, be sure to subscribe because I will also be releasing the best commanders right now, or rather the best open field pairings for Season T1, or rather my predictions on what will be OP, who might have fallen out of the meta, and so on and so forth. So be sure to do that because you don't want to miss out. And of course, you can always join my Discord if you want to get account coached or just hang out and have all discussions about Call of Dragons. So that being said, let's get this video started. So I'm just going to be going off the artifacts one by one right in front of me and just work my way through what's good and what's not. I'm just going to explain things bit by bit, or rather, I think I'll just go from the tiers, from the not usable to the D, to the C, to the B, to the A, now to the S. But the thing is, before I would just want to give some context on what makes an artifact good or not is its usability, its active, and the stats it gives. And sometimes some artifacts are now giving extra passives, giving them an edge over others. So do keep that in mind. Just because an artifact could be in D tier doesn't necessarily mean it's completely useless. Every artifact has its use in certain situations, so do keep that in mind. That being said, let's just rename this to utility and let's go. So starting off the amulet, it's a PvE, useless. The archer manual, I believe, is PvP. Now, do note I haven't done this in quite a while, so I might have completely forgotten what some artifacts do. So, yeah, this is going to be in a utility tier. Phoenix Eye has kind of dropped off now. I wouldn't say it's S tier or even A tier anymore. If anything, I think it's fallen down to B tier with the presence of the new artifact, which I will break down further on. The cloak is going to be in utility. Tier of Arbon, it's going to be in utility. This Lucia's Horn is completely useless. Is Oath? Is this the Oath one? Kind of forgot its name here. I don't use it at all. Solan's Blade. Solan's Blade is gonna be making its way down to C tier. If it's not, Spring Blade is never gonna be S tier. For cavalry artifacts, especially. Next up, Viola's Bow. Viola's Bow is pretty strong. I actually quite enjoy using it a lot, especially now that we're getting more and more OP artifacts. So that 10-second silence it provides for activating artifacts is actually pretty strong. So I think it will be moved up to the A tier, if anything, because it's just so strong. That active is so insanely strong and it does a decent amount of damage, and its range will always guarantee a hit onto mages. So definitely worth picking up, even if you just keep it at level 1. Next up, the manual, not usable. Springfield Feather in the utility tier. Dragon Scale Armor is no longer in the S tier, I believe, because, well, it just got overshadowed by how incredibly broken Spiritbone Toric is. So sadly, Dragon Scale has definitely started to fall off flavor of the month, and as well as the HP it provides doesn't make infantry as tanky as something like defense is right now. Storm arrows in the B tier, pretty solid, pretty insane range, and pretty fun to use in general. Definitely in the B tier and definitely very strong. Next up, this book. I don't even remember what it does. We're just going to throw it in not usable. Now, for our first S tier artifact, Breath of Gigantus is still insanely strong. The utility it provides by providing a 32% defense break for every single target, for 10 targets rather, for 20 seconds is still incredibly and insanely strong and incredibly and disgustingly broken. And it has a lot of interactions with a lot of commanders that want to hit targets that have defense break. So 100% worth picking up, 100% worth insta maxing and running as one of your marches, because it just benefits everything and enables everyone to do that much more damage. Next up, this thing, I always forget its name. It's going to be thrown in the not usable. Next up, Kingslayer, still in the A tier, still incredibly strong. One of the better cavalry artifacts, cavalry commander artifacts. Ooh, still incredibly strong. Shadow Blades, it has kind of fallen off. I think it's better in B tier. Viol as well, I like it way more now, personally. It just provides much more utility than Shadow Blades, than the raw damage Shadow Blades provide. So Shadow Blades now stays in the B tier versus it was in the A tier. Next up, this sword, I don't remember it. I'm gonna throw it not usable. Next up, Greymar's Hammer, I believe, will be in the B tier. It's still very strong, but now it's harder to get into people's faces so you can stun them and engage with them, but it does provide a lot of defense, so it's still pretty strong in general. Next up, Bloodborne Banner. It's not really an open field artifact. This Trebuchet, I think it's a Darkling one. This one not usable. This one not usable. And this one is the Garrison one, definitely not usable. Butcher's Blade, not usable. This is pretty strong. I would say I've seen it sometimes happen in season one. It does a decent amount of damage. This helmet, I don't even know what it does. Dragon Rift, pretty worthless, one of the most useless infantry artifact in the game. This is not usable. This is not usable. Fang of Ashkari, definitely in the C tier. Frozen Ring, I'll definitely keep it in the utility because I've seen a lot of people start to use it after we made that underrated artifact videos. If you don't know how to use it properly, be sure to check it out. The artifact can be pretty game changing if used in the correct situations, so definitely worth checking out and trying out for yourself. The gems not usable, this thing not usable, the coins also not usable. Sickle, I don't know why the sickle's even in this tier list. I should really update the artifacts here. Now the mask not usable. Heart of Kamisai, I believe I'll just keep it in the utility section more than anything. It has its uses, it's pretty good, I would say, but I'm just gonna stay in the utility section. The Heart Piercer, also in the bottom of C tier. Oops, the mouse sometimes lags out. Springfield Blossom, not usable. Goldcrest. I believe Goldcrest is still in the S tier, or I think I'll keep it in the top of A tier. It's still incredibly strong, but the problem is it's just so buggy sometimes that I don't want to put it in S tier just from the sheer amount of bugs it has, to be honest. Plus, it's completely locked to Syndrome Fragar, so its uses are limited with how much marches you can use it on. It's don't get me wrong, it's still a massive nuke, but it's just so buggy. If the bugs get fixed, and if the bugs I mean is that if you run out of range, the second damage will not go through. Sometimes the snare doesn't go through. Like it's just so buggy sometimes. It makes it feel really bad to use it, but if those bugs get fixed, it will definitely be incredibly broken once again. So fingers crossed. Next up, Infernal Flame. Infernal Flame, pretty strong, I would say, but it's no longer in the S tier. It's definitely better than Phoenix Eye right now, just from the keen it provides for your Lilia. Visage of the Senses, I've heard really good stuff on, and it might be making its way to the meta soon, but for now, I'm keeping it in the utility section since it only works with shielded marches. Rockets, of course, is incredibly broken, but now we're going to keep it for the not usable. Karada's Wrath, not usable. Magic Bomb, I will put it in the top of C tier because it has some really interesting mechanics you should definitely check out. Oath of Stormpeak, not usable. Worst artifact in the game. Never used that artifact. It's so bad. It's so trash. Absolute garbage. Disgusting artifact. Trash, trash, trash. Next up, we got ourselves the engineering, not usable. This not usable. Rattle Spear, still S tier. I still definitely want it. I'll definitely go all out for it the moment I hear it's coming up in the Forge of Light. It's incredibly strong. It provides an insanely strong passive that just synergizes so well with a march like Hoskanara or, well, any march that has defense break. It scales so well. It's just so good. In general, I really want it. It's incredibly broken. The active sometimes can be wonky, but the passive it provides outweighs the negatives it has and keeps it in the S tier. Bangle Spirit, not usable. Springs of Silence, bottom of C tier. Spring Blades. Spring Blades, incredibly broken, incredibly busted. S tier artifact for sure. I hate facing it. It just deals so much damage and it just provides an insane passive for the rage engine called Bakshi Emrys March. So overall, incredibly strong artifact and definitely a must-have if you use Cavalry. Personally, I don't use Cavalry, so I didn't bother picking it up. So yeah, that's my reasoning for it. Staff of I don't remember what's called. Utility, Staff of Profit, definitely in the utility section. It has some really good uses if you know how to use it, utilize it properly. Next up, this feather thing, not usable. Wolfwoman of Halar, I'll also keep it in the utility section because you could do a lot of interesting stuff with it, but it doesn't really do any damage. The reason why I put Storm Arrows here in B tier because since the bug of Wolfwoman changed, you can no longer abuse it that much. It just stays a utility versus Storm Arrows that gives you Rampage as soon as you blink. Now, the Orb of Mirage, I believe, will be top of the A tier for the mage artifacts, and it might make its way into the S tier soon, just from the overloaded kit that it has. It reads, every time your Legion gains a buff effect through a hero skill, they deal 7% more artifact skill damage up to a maximum of 21%, which is pretty huge considering this also improves the damage of this, which will scale to 3000 once maxed out, and this will scale to 2000 once maxed out. So it's incredibly strong, and every time you get a buff, you're definitely going to be dealing an insane amount of damage. And 20 seconds pretty much guarantees you're going to be constantly skill cycling through this and maxing out, especially because mages tend to skill cycle quite a lot. And as you can see here, its AoE is pretty insane. So I'll definitely be getting it up and I'll definitely work my way to max it. Spiritborn Tonic, absolutely one of the most disgusting artifacts released in this game for a while. It is so overloaded, it does so much utility, provides so much stats. I don't know why it was designed this way, but it is absolutely disgustingly broken. A must have and a must max. Next up, we have the Sun Flame Hammer. It is one of the new artifacts that's happened to come out for the epic tiers, and it also has an additional passive overshadowing every single epic artifact we've had. I mean, those five are pretty OP, I would say, and they're pretty strong in general. So we have Sunflame Hammer. I think I'll definitely keep it in the C tier for sure. I wouldn't say it's not usable, but it's not on top of C tier. But well, it reads it does damage 1.2k, scaling up to 2.4k. And the way reason why I say that is because usually artifacts tend to double the damage they have from level 1 and level 5. Also, it's gonna have an additional healing factor, so definitely works well with Garwood or Madeline. It gives you that extra heal in case you don't have any legendary artifact. Pretty good for the early game, I would say. Next up, Guardian's Runic Longsword. It's still the same thing, same principle. When your Legion enters battle, they take 2% less range damage for 20 seconds. Effect after battle ends, and then it can be triggered every 20 seconds. I would say this is not really usable. I mean, cavalry artifacts are pretty bad outside the legendaries, but maybe I'll just keep it in the C tier for now. Maybe we'll just keep it at the bottom of C tier. Next up, we have Steelheart Avenger. Deals diffuse damage up to 2 enemy legions in a designated circle for 3 seconds. So it does damage over time for 3 seconds for 2 enemies and just constantly does damage over time, which is pretty strong, I would say. And whenever your legion inflicts a debuff effect on an enemy legion after using hero skill, the hero deals 2% more normal attack. Wait, that's actually pretty strong. This is pretty strong, I would say. I think I might put it at the top of C tier here, right next to Magic Bomb. Yo, this is pretty strong, actually. Alright, what's this? Lakeside Raspberry. Deals diffuse damage, same thing. Deals an additional damage whenever you inflict Scorch or Freeze. Ooh, this is pretty good actually. Magic Bomb might have a contender now. Putting it in the C tier, Rocket's not usable. What does this even do? Oh, it's PvE. Who cares? Now, Dagger of Betrayal. This is a pretty interesting artifact because it has an 8-second cooldown, dispels a buff from a random enemy legion. I'm sure people can figure out how to use it, so I'm just going to be keeping it in the. What is this? Oh, I'm just going to be keeping it in the utility section. I would say just from that 8-second cooldown. I wonder how it scales when you level it up. So that is it for the tier list, I would say, for the open field of my predictions on what the best performing artifacts will be for season T1. Even if you're still entering season 2, it all applies so far. Nothing's really changed much except, every time we discover something new, something gets added up, something gets added down. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this tier list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below or join the Discord and let's have a discussion about it. But on that note, thank you so much for watching. We finally broke the 3K mark. Again, thank you guys so much. The channel is growing, Discord is growing, and I just can't believe it. It's just so amazing watching this community grow and having you guys every step of the way. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe, join the Discord, the link is in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Meow meow!